a show to help you develop and grow your brand in a more authentic and sustainable way, locally and globally. Whether it is about your personal brand, your company brand, your product or service level brand. My name is Brigitte Bojkowszky. Everyone calls me Bridget. I'm the founder and owner of BridgetBrands, a marketing strategy boutique. I help my clients craft meaningful strategies that effectively elevate their brands to unleash their full potential to shine. Together we go deep to bring the brilliance out of you. So let's get started and dive with me into the world of brands. Today, I'm excited to have Deb Krier as my guest. Deb is an unabashed connector with information, knowledge, and resources to help people become more successful in business and in life. She's a LinkedIn strategist, marketing professional, social media advisor, professional speaker, and trainer. Since 2011, Deb has hosted the Business Power Hour, and she absolutely loves talking with her guests about a variety of business topics. Deb is the president of Wise Women Communications, LLC, a full-service marketing and public relations firm. She has an MS in Communications Management and an MBA in Business Management. I warmly welcome Deb Krier. Welcome to BrandsTalk.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. It's always fun to be on the other side of the microphone, right?
Absolutely. We already had the pleasure with each other.
Yes, you were on my program and we had such a great conversation.
Absolutely. The hour passed by so quickly. And today I have you on my show. I'm really excited about that. So Deb, before we go all about social media and in specific LinkedIn for CSuite executive, Deb, could you tell us a little bit about your background, where you're coming from, about your personal journey, brought you right there where you're right now?
Great. Well, it's kind of one of those routes that, you just kind of fell into, right? After I got out of college, and my original degree, my bachelor's degree is in social science. There is nothing that you do with that degree. And so I went to work in offices and thought that was great. And, but knew that it was not what I wanted to be doing my entire life. And so someone, I read the book, I think that was when What Color Is Your Parachute first came out. And I talked with several people and they said, you do public relations and marketing for organizations for free. I volunteered to do newsletters and things like that. And then they said, is there a reason you don't want to get paid for it? And I kind of went, and so that was what started my career in public relations. And I absolutely loved it. I love working with the media. I loved being able to communicate the messages. I've worked with one of the largest nonprofits in the world. I worked for the American Cancer Society, and I worked for a small boutique agency where we had a variety of clients. I mean, I loved that because one minute I'd be working on, one thing, and then 10 minutes later, something totally different, and then 10 minutes later, something totally different. And, I love doing all of that. And then I went back into corporate America and was a communications coordinator for, at that point, the company was called ING. Now it's called Voya. It was a Dutch-based company, and it has spun off to just its U.S. counterpart. But I was the communications coordinator for 4 business units. And, and by a business unit, I mean a company. So, there were 4 companies that I reported to. And it was the same thing as like working with agencies. You 1 minute you'd be doing something, 10 minutes later something else. It was very different working with a budget that was basically unlimited. And doing corporate messaging. I also did crisis communications while I was there, and was there during September 11th. I mean, that was a very scary time, especially because we were the 7th largest company in the world. And next to American Express, we were the largest financial company. And so, it was it was definitely a very scary time, but, I kind of thrived on that. I thought that was very interesting. But they went through some acquisitions, as big companies do. and eventually had too many people doing the same type of job. And so I asked to be put on the severance list. It had been stressful. I was ready to go out on my own, all sorts of things. And so I did. I received a wonderful benefit package from them. Went to work as a lobbyist for a while. And now that was an interesting job to have. It was very strange working in the government like that. But it was also very interesting. It seems like everything I have done, I've really enjoyed what it was. But during that time, I thought, it's time to start my own company. And so I started Wise Women Communications. And the goal of it was to go into companies and do the one-time or the short-term type of projects. So not your typical agency retainer where they pay you month after month and you do 2 press releases and that's it. With Wise Women, we go in, we do one thing, and then we're done for the most part. There are some that we have longer-term relationships with. But, the concept was formed because they actually had me come back to ING and do things for them because they hadn't replaced me, but they still needed those tasks done. And so I went back and did those things. And, it's been great. It was, it's been almost 25 years since I started Wise Women. And along the way, of course, with any company, it has evolved and changed. And about 10 years ago or so, we started really focusing on social media as a business tool, because that was the point where, Facebook was really starting to gain traction and businesses would say, I don't want to be on Facebook. Should I be on Facebook? What do I need to do? And all these things. And so for me, it is just another marketing tool, just like your website, just like a brochure, just like anything. And so we really work with companies on how to use it as a marketing tool. Somewhere along in there, I started the podcast, which has been a ton of fun. I love meeting and talking with my guests. And then I've kind of migrated even a little bit further to, as you said, focusing on LinkedIn for senior executives, on how they can build their personal brand by using LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So that's me in a nutshell.
So we go a little backwards. I would like to know, what made you leave the safety net of being a corporate in the first place? What made you want to become your own boss? Why did you become the face of your own company? What was the driver here? What was your big why? What did you go?
You and I have known each other for a while, and so you probably picked this up. I like to be in charge. And more importantly, I like to be able to pick and choose what I was working on, as opposed to somebody saying, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And I know that there are people that absolutely thrive on that. They love to have that structure and things like that. And I just didn't like that. I wanted to go off on my own. I'll be very honest. My husband is the primary breadwinner and I have excellent benefits through him. And so I did not have that worry that many business owners have. And so it has enabled me to do some things that for other people, it might not be possible. But it's been a wild journey. It really has been something that has, like I said, evolved through the years.
Yeah. So to have someone who is the breadwinner is really taking a lot of
right
at in a very easy peasy going way. There is you are basically coming from a perspective that is, if it works, it works, and this easiness, lightness in the way of how you are doing things, it will work. But it's always hard when you're under such pressure to be really good and productive and then successful, because you're really committed to that and you want to make this happen no matter what. All right, good. So I also have seen that you're putting a lot of focus on women. Why is that?
I think especially in senior leadership roles, women still lag behind, and that's worldwide, there's a variety of reasons for it. I think, one of the reasons is a very important, very critical reason. I think many women are, they're at home, they're taking care of their kids, they're raising their families. And that is obviously, incredibly important, but it means that then they're behind on the career track. Maybe they are out of work for 10, 15 years, or they're doing part-time jobs or things like that. And then when they try and go back into, especially a corporate setting, they're kind of behind, and they, even if they've been keeping up on what's going on in their industry and their chosen field, all of those various things, they're just behind in doing, in having that experience that someone who has been working that entire time has. And I think we definitely saw that, especially here in the States when COVID hit and the companies shut down. So many women just completely quit their jobs because they had to take care of their kids. Now, sometimes, I know that was because the men were the primary breadwinners in their families, and so they had to make that choice. But even now, trying to go back into those roles, it's very different. And I think we need to do whatever we can to help women be successful. And maybe that is that they're only working part-time, or they're only working from home, all of these various things. Part of it, I think, is redefining what the roles can be. And, that is one thing with the pandemic. The whole work from home and network remotely and all of those various things has been such a great benefit to, especially I think to women, because, they can accomplish more by and not have to do the 9 to 5 in a business, and getting in the car and driving off and all of those things.
Yeah, it's a lot of women that also leave their corporate job because they found it. Yeah, they figured it's so much easier. Easier. It's also, you have to accomplish everything. Still has 24 hours, but it's an easier task to and if you are disciplined, that you can say, okay, I dedicate now this my job, and the rest is so it's easier to combine all of it, right?
Right.
And you really, I think a lot of people appreciate that way, or the work style now, going back and commute to an office and back, and maybe go to the office once a week only.
Right.
That is a completely different way of living too.
Right.
More quality to it. Yeah. All right.
Right.
So let's talk about LinkedIn, because you are LinkedIn strategist for C-suite. So what do we understand by that exactly? So how is that different in supporting C-level executives to become more successful in business and in life compared to non-C-level executives? Please go a little bit into that. And
Sure.
exactly that you offer.
Right. Well, for many people, when LinkedIn first started, it was how we got our jobs. That was how we kind of built a network. We cut and pasted our resume pretty much in, and we didn't really do anything more. Back when we first started on LinkedIn, it really wasn't encouraged to do posting. It was almost an online resume service. And it's still, in many, many ways, is a great place and a fantastic place for people to get jobs and for them to connect. There are many companies now that don't advertise their jobs at all anywhere except on LinkedIn. And, especially if they're looking for more corporate level type of people, things like that. And, but it also at the same time kind of evolved into this place where it truly is an online network. And so that's where it's important for a senior level executive, for a business owner, to really have a good presence there and have a good, strong personal brand. Because so many times when we're busy running our own business, or we're senior level at another business, we forget that we have our own personal brand. And, and that's so important. And I know that you talk with a lot of your guests about how important a personal brand is. And we don't want that to get lost in the shuffle. And LinkedIn is a great place to have that, because you can have that personal profile. You can be posting, you can be connecting with other executives, you can be mentoring people, all sorts of things. And so that's where where LinkedIn is a really great tool for that.
So, where do you see the major pain points in your clients as a LinkedIn strategist or a marketing strategist? And how do you help them to turn
Mhm.
points around and, yeah,
I,
make gains?
yeah, I think so many still think it's just for getting jobs, and so they're, and because they own their own business or they're a senior level executive, that's not what they're interested in. The other is that, there's kind of a lack of knowledge about it. What do I do? How do I use it effectively? And more importantly, I don't have time. I am running my own business. I am the CFO of a company. I manage this big department, all these various things. And so part of what we show them is this is not something, that takes a lot of time. And I think that they get that impression because they see people spending hours on Facebook or TikTok or, all of the various other truly social media platforms. And on LinkedIn, I tell people, 10, 15 minutes a day pretty much is it. You come in, you're drinking your first cup of coffee, you go through LinkedIn, you're done for the day. Not really a big time, unless there's specific reasons why you're going onto it. If you're just going to check it every morning, that's what you need to do. So, once you've got your profile truly optimized so that it's really showing you off and highlighting your skills and knowledge, it doesn't take an awful lot of time to be able to keep up on LinkedIn.
Mm. So, since you are a podcaster, we come to that a little. As
Mhm,
strategist, you have had your company for almost 20
mhm,
years, you said. You are a professional speaker and a trainer. So you are a thought leader. Yeah. You
mhm,
are also a personal brand, a very strong brand. Now, I would like
mhm,
from you, what is or makes the best authentic brand, personal brand,
mhm.
especially online, on social media and LinkedIn and
Right.
your platform? So what makes that best
I
authentic?
think I think the thing to remember is that you are always you need to always be aware of what other people are thinking of you. I've talked to people who are incredibly professional on LinkedIn, and you go to say Twitter or Facebook, and you're like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't work with this person. I wouldn't hire this person. And we have the word authentic in, and we talk about it a lot, and we don't want anybody to be fake. That's not the point of this either, because if they meet you in person and you don't match up, or even if they talk to you online, things like that. So, it is important that you're still authentic to yourself. If you're kind of this comedian type of person, then it's okay to still be that comedian online, even on LinkedIn. But just remember that anybody who is reading it, looking at it, all those various things, might be the next person who's going to hire you or refer to you. So it is very important to, and I don't care if you're 18 years old or 65, you have to be aware of what other people are thinking about you. And that's basically what a personal brand is what do other people think about you? And so if they see, say on Facebook that, you're always posting the negative, nasty things, this is what's going on. Oh, this is horrible. This is awful. I hate this, why do you want to know somebody like that? I mean, sometimes their posts are interesting, but yeah, you don't want to associate with toxic people. Now again, if it's something that's important to you, I'm not saying not to talk about it, but think about how you're going to talk about it so that it doesn't come across as this horrible, awful person. We've all heard the line, think about every time you post that your minister, your rabbi, your spouse, your mother, your client is going to read it. And you really should, and the weird thing is it all ties in. I interviewed somebody earlier for my radio program. We were talking about crisis communications, and even the littlest thing anymore can be amplified so much. There was a country western singer here in the United States, and this was a week or so ago, and I don't remember who it was. I'm not even going to guess her name, but she clicked like on a video from kind of a controversial source. And so many people latched onto that and said, oh my gosh, she supports them. She clicked like. She might not have even meant to click like. And more importantly, it might not even be her. She probably has somebody who manages her accounts for her. But simple little things like that get scrutinized so much. The trolls of the world come out. And so you do have to pay attention. Again, you have to be authentic. I talked with someone here in Atlanta who very, very political. And he, and he posted a lot about it on Facebook. And some of his posts were very controversial. And he told me one time, he said, I know I probably lose business because of that. And I said, yeah, I mean, when you're posting something like that, I mean, especially here in the States, it's about 50-50. 50 or one party, 50 or the other party. And so if you're being very controversial on one political party, you're alienating 50% of people you could be reaching. And he said, I know I'm probably losing clients. He said, but it's just important to me that I am being authentic to who I am. And I said, as long as you recognize that, then that's fine. It's when we see people who accidentally click like or share an article or, things like that. And even just, when you take pictures, I know somebody who lost out on a job interview because she posted a picture on Facebook, getting together with my friends. Sounds easy, right? Well, she was in a bar. It looked really pretty nasty, pretty seedy. And the company's reputation, that was not somebody they wanted working for them. And just that simple picture basically cost her that interview. And so we always have to be aware of what impression we are giving on social media. And sure, we can have our websites. I mean, I have my own branded website. It's debkrier.com. You've got your own branded website. And so that's where we're the true professional people. But social media very much can damage or enhance your personal brand.
Yeah, so we have to be really aware of what we are communicating, and also when it comes to controversial posts, whether we engage with that or not. And what I also heard is at the beginning you mentioned, okay, what I show on LinkedIn and what do I show on Facebook, so that there's certain consistency of how I show up to the world across platforms and channels, right?
Right.
So are there any, let's say, tips and tricks or do's and don'ts that you want to specifically highlight in addition to what you have already mentioned when it comes to LinkedIn or social media in general?
Right. So on LinkedIn, and we can talk a lot about this, I always tell people more is good. When I look at somebody's profile and they just have one or two sentences, it really doesn't tell me too much about them. Now, I'm not saying that it's war and peace. We don't write these novels with everything, but there's a reason LinkedIn gives you a fairly large character count. And, you don't have to use every single one, but, like say your professional headline. If you just say on LinkedIn, founder, president.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Okay, whoopee. But like mine says, unabashed connector and all those other things that you said. It's a headline. The reason for a headline is a true newspaper or magazine article where you have the headline and you read it and you think, I have to read more. And so that's really what you want to think about when you're writing your headline. When you're writing your about statement, again, so many people skip it. It's one of the top things that people see. And, to me, it's kind of like the executive summary of something. You want them to read enough in that to then want to read further and know more about you. So I tell people it's the place to tell your professional story. And it's a great way to be able to do that. I go back and forth. Do you write it first person? Do you write it third person? I like first person because it should be like I'm talking to you. So I'm not going to say Deb Krier does. That just, talk about sounding pretentious. Oi. And so, but it does. It tells that story. And say for someone who's looking for a new job, that's a great place to be able to say, I'm open to relocation. My career aspirations are. So that way you can kind of, somebody reading it goes, oh, okay, well, this is a great fit for our company. And then fill out every other section that you can. Put your experience that pertains. You don't need to tell people what you did in high school unless it really directly pertains to what you do now. All of those other various things. Keywords are obviously very important. LinkedIn is searchable by keywords. So just like when you're writing a website, you want to think SEO, and that's important in your headline also, when people are searching there. And it also ties into Google, because if you go and you do a search in Google looks at keywords in LinkedIn profiles. Mm-hmm. So that's where you will see people's LinkedIn profiles come up. But yeah, just more is better. Don't bore people with it, but you want to be able to provide enough so that they think, hey, I want to talk to this person more.
Okay, so meaningful content and also
right.
interesting, the relevant
Mm-hmm.
content.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also touch people's heart, and that you also relate
right.
with the people, right?
Well, and it's okay to be kind of the human on LinkedIn. I think we get so caught up with, I have to be this professional person. It's perfectly fine to put fun stuff on there. Like in my professional headline, it says college sports lover. Yeah. And I've had more than one person say, I wanted to connect with you just because of that. There's a reason why LinkedIn included being able to list volunteer activities. It shows more of the rounded person as opposed to just here is the business person. So you can have fun with that, and even in your posts, you can be posting articles. Now again, it is the professional platform, so many things that you would post on the other sites, you're not going to post on LinkedIn, but you can still have a sense of humor if that matches your personality in your posts.
Yeah, so we are still human beings behind.
Right.
So
and we connect with people.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you also connect with people on your own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The Business Power Hour. It runs twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Program on the CSuite Radio, which is part of the CSuite network.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've learned you started your podcast in 2011. Is this true?
I know. Oh my gosh. And it actually was a live broadcast. I trotted my little self down to an internet-based radio station and I sat in the studio. And it was so much fun because my guests came in too. So we really could have some very good interaction by doing that. And it was a ton of fun to be able to do that.
And so why did you start it in the first place? And yeah, why did you continue it? And you were still doing it twice a week. So what's the intention?
Well, and it is unusual to have podcasts that run this long. It's people burn out. It's a lot of work, as you know. I mean, it takes quite a bit of time to research your guests, to set up the schedules, to do the editing. I mean, all those various things. I started because I was a guest on somebody else's podcast, and I went, ooh, this was fun. And so I approached the station, and at that point, that was, like I said, 10 years ago. So social media was just really starting. And so I said, I would like to do a podcast that focuses on social media in business. And so we called it the Socialite. And, and so of course the graphics were fun. I had, this boa, a feather boa. I almost said boa constrictor. That's the wrong boa. A feather boa and a fancy hat, and all sorts of things because I was the socialite. And we talked about social media, and I interviewed a variety of people on that, and it was so much fun. And then it evolved into the business podcast because there really is only so many times you can talk about social media. And I moved from Mile High Radio, which was where we were originally, to CSuite Network because it focuses more on business, and and it just was a perfect fit for me to be able to do that. Clearly one of the reasons why I do a podcast is I like to talk to people. But more importantly, I like talking to people who have important information for my listeners and for my viewers. And, it's so much fun. I mean, I interviewed somebody yesterday for a podcast that will go live next week in Rome. I've interviewed you. I've interviewed people from around the world. and so it really allows me to do a lot of different subjects. I also tell people I can talk, I can interview whoever I want because it's my program. So I've interviewed people about nutrition, about mental health. I've interviewed several hypnotherapists. And part of that, though, is because I believe that if we're not healthy, both mentally and physically, it's not going to matter what we do with our business. So we need to be taking those steps, but yeah, I tell me it's my program. I can interview who I want.
All encompassing, right? It's the same with branding.
Right.
So I had someone who is a nutritionist.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important that you are what you are, and
Right.
part of feeling good, and is part of making you powerful and stronger. So the
Mm-hmm.
requisite of being a strong personal brand, right?
Right.
And it's also fun to have people from all around the world because of all the cultural differences
Mm-hmm.
of doing things, and get
Mm-hmm.
better understanding of each other.
Right. Yeah, because we were trending toward this, obviously, but I think the pandemic has really amplified the fact that in many cases we are working with people around the world. So we need to know, okay, this is how things operate in other places, and even if it's just simple things like colors. I taught a class in Denver at a university, and we talked about how different colors are perceived differently in different countries. Here in the United States, green is a symbol of. It's funny. It's an environmental color, and it's the color of money. But in other countries, green is not that. Black and white. Here in the States, it's purity. Black is a color of death. In other countries, that's totally different, and things like that. And so it's fun to learn about what can be expected if we're, going to be working with people in other countries, because we do get very self-centered, and I don't care what country it is. And we forget that, other people have different views and different ways of working.
Yeah, we are always relying and referring to our own value systems that
Mm-hmm.
grown up with, what we have learned. But
Mm-hmm.
countries, there are different systems and
Right.
different cultural understandings. And number four in China has a completely different meaning.
Right.
And you have to be careful when you are pricing something number four.
Mm-hmm.
Buyer, people might not buy because it's
Right. Mm-hmm.
death. So, and the same colors, yeah. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to be very, very careful. And also with of yes is not necessarily a yes. A yes, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, I have heard you, but I have not understood. So
Mm-hmm.
all these different layers we have to really, really be, pay attention to. We have to be careful about.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. So Deb, I would like to know if there is any experience in your life that was a major learning for you, a setback that, also helped you to grow from it going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Life that shaped you. Is there anything that you would like to share with us? Because always these setbacks and the or failures,
Right. We always learn from our failures. Mm-hmm.
you leap from it because that's an integral part of your life and of your future, thereby.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, for me, I went to a doctor, and this was 6 years ago, and came out of it, and they went, golly gee, you have cancer. I tell people I know just enough to be dangerous because I worked for the American Cancer Society and I worked for an oncologist. So, I know a lot of those words. I know, a lot of the terminology. And so initially they told me stage 0, which is, that's what the dream diagnosis, right? And they said, this is going to be very easy to treat. We're probably not even going to do chemo or radiation. This is going to be very easy. We did some basic tests. Again, everything came back as looking very rosy, very happy. You're still just absolutely terrified. You say the word cancer and, your heart stops and your head goes 900 miles an hour. But then, it turned out it was not stage 0. It was stage 4. And stage 4 metastatic breast cancer is not something that you want. I mean, no cancer is what you want, but stage 4 meant that it had traveled to other parts of my body. And so, I was like, okay. But I still remember thinking, this was not on my schedule. And I was like, well, how rude. And so, but then I approached it with, okay, we're going to deal with this and then we're going to move on. Well, whatever, decided that was not going to be what happened. And I had what my doctor fondly calls a catastrophic reaction to my very first chemo treatment. And I ended up in the hospital for 7 weeks. I had septic shock, which is, not, they were actually arguing over how fast I was going to die. And so I had all sorts of complications and things like that. And 6 years later, I'm actually still in treatment, but clearly doing very well. And I tell people, the alternative was not acceptable, and so you just keep going. But from all those perspectives, it taught me that we absolutely positively have to focus on now. What can we do right now to make things better for ourselves? Because you know what, we have to be selfish. And I don't care if you ever get a diagnosis like this or not. We do have to focus on ourselves. But by focusing on ourselves, then we can help other people. And I love this analogy, and I can't take credit for it. Somebody else said it first, and but they said, there's a reason when you're on an airplane and they tell you the oxygen mask drops down. Put yours on first before you help someone else. And that's very important, to take care of yourself. So part of what I learned was, to, as much as possible, get rid of the toxic people in my life, and really focus on, on going forward positively. Do I have bad days? Sure. There are days where I just have great big pity parties for myself. But then, you get up and you dust yourself off and you go on, but it's certainly not anything that I would ever want anybody else to have to go through, even, a mild diagnosis. It's funny, I was diagnosed earlier this year with skin cancer on my arm. And I was like, oh, whatever. And I was like, I know enough about it to know this, you cut it off, it's done, that's it. And the doctor was very cute because he put on his concerned voice and he was telling me, now this is not something you need to worry about. And I went, yeah, whatever. I'm like, you need to understand this is, no big deal. But anytime you hear something like that, you do think, oh my gosh, but I think for anybody who is listening and watching this, it was definitely the wake up call. And so, but it did show me, there are certainly far more important things in life. Pick your battles. Does this really matter? But be, also, again, like I was saying, take care of yourself. I was real big on volunteering. Anytime somebody needed something, my hand went up and my hand went up and no, I just can't do that anymore because physically I can't do that. But now you pick and you choose, this is what's important to me, as opposed to, I'm just going to volunteer because nobody else volunteered. Find out what's important to you. And one of the things that I have discovered is this is how I met you, is the power of building those tribes of supporters around you. And it's funny, I never really networked specifically with women's groups for several reasons. It never seemed to click. And after all of this, I have discovered that where I get the most out of are the women's groups, and maybe that's because of the empathy, because of the nurturing, because of the support, all of those things. And I still network with men. I mean, that's, but it is very different. And that's been very interesting as to kind of how that's evolved. And I don't know, maybe that would have just happened because of age. We get wiser, hopefully, as we get older. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting time.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's self-care to surround yourself with people are like-minded that support you, and you can give support that lift each other.
Right.
that is also something that helps you tremendously grow, because you get this confidence. There's people who stand you. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
being in an accountability group, I think that also
Mm-hmm.
helps you drastically to move.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yeah, I think you are a wonderful and strong woman. And
I have my Wonder Woman mug here.
yes,
Yeah, Wonder Woman.
and as the experience that you went through, I mean, and you see, you got out of that so much stronger, and you have this, yeah, you are full of energy and power, and it's unbelievable what you're bringing to the world. I love that.
Well, and it's anything that I can do to help others now. I mean, that it's funny. I say, don't volunteer, but at the same point is how can you help people? I was doing a one-on-one networking call yesterday with a young woman just starting out, and she was starting her business, and she was in Belgium, and she actually lives in the UK, but she was visiting friends in Belgium while she was there, and did her chat with me. And, we get partway through and I said, now I need you to tell me how I can help you. And it brought her up short. She said, nobody's ever asked me that. And she said, I honestly don't know how to respond. And I said, that's okay. I said, just keep in mind that there are people who want to help you and not expect anything in return.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It's to help without expecting anything in
Mhm.
return. That's
Mhm. Right.
because
Right. And you do get things in return. But yeah, when you're not expecting it, that I think is the key.
that's the key. Absolutely. Yeah. So I would like to know one more thing from you. Do you have
Mhm.
for corporates who are shifting to solopreneurship, who want
Mhm.
their own boss and their face of their own company?
Mhm.
Are there any branding, let's say, pieces of advice you can give the audience?
Mhm. I think you really need to sit down and think about what it is that you want to be known for, both as a company and as personal, especially if it's your company, because they're very intricately tied together.
Yeah.
And so, what do you want to be known for? And don't get so caught up in, well, I have to do this color on the website because it's trendy, and I have to be on Snapchat because that's where my audience is. You need the basics first. So, what is it that you stand for? What, and it can, part of it too is some marketing things. Who are you trying to reach? I think one of the worst things that people do starting out and, even years later is they don't know who their market is. I always love it when I ask people now, who is your target market? And they look at me and they smile sweetly and they say, everyone. No,
Oh, no.
you know, nobody's market is everyone. And so you'll think about who that is. And that's very limiting. It's very scary because you're thinking, but there's all that money that's out there, but they're not going to buy from you anyway. So figure all of those basics out before going. But then I think probably one of the most important things is to just do it. We get so caught up in that it has to be perfect before we do it that we don't do it. I had somebody tell me when I was starting my business that I had jumped off the diving board, but then I reached back up and grabbed it and was hanging on by my fingernails. And what that meant was I still had my other full-time job. And she said, until I had to do it, I wasn't really going to do it. And now, that's not always possible. Sometimes you need to start as a side job, some things like that. But until you think of it as a real job, a real career, as opposed to maybe a hobby, nobody else is going to take you seriously either. And so that is part of your brand. I mean, are you the person who kind of, sort of is doing this, or the person who is a professional who is doing this as their career, as their life's work? And it doesn't matter. You can be a landscaper, you can be, whatever. You have to kind of have that passion because we pick up on that, right? When we're working with somebody and we know they don't want to be there.
Yeah. You feel that.
Yeah.
It's the energy that comes across.
Mhm.
Say it and how you do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I heard somebody just on the radio this morning, he went into Starbucks and, got his coffee and And he said, he could tell the person didn't really want to be working. Now it's early, all those various things. And he said, I wasn't in a good mood either. And they gave him coffee and he said, thank you. And they didn't respond. They just, and he said, and I told them, this is where you say you're welcome.
Exactly.
But it was, his point was, it was so clear they didn't want to be there. Then why should they be there? Now, they have bills to pay. They have to be there. But, I live in the world of Chick-fil-A where they are taught that when you serve somebody, you say, thank you. It's been my pleasure to serve you.
Exactly.
And that they actually mean it. It's just an hourly job where they're actually making pretty good money. But, is it their pleasure to serve? Yeah. But, when they say, it's been my pleasure to serve you, you're like, oh, well, thank you. And then you smile at them and maybe you made their day.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a little smile at the end that just makes
It could completely change somebody's day. I mean, maybe they were having a horrible, awful day and you smile at them. They're like, okay, maybe the world's not as bad a place as I thought it was.
Yeah, right. Okay, Deb, I would like to do a quick word wrap before we finish it up. Are you ready to give me quick and short answers?
Sure, I can do quick and short.
Yes, so we do. Women,
Empowered,
LinkedIn,
critical,
beagles.
love bugs. We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, that's why I brought it up. Yes.
Say that one again. I missed it.
Leadership,
Not managers.
empowering,
Important.
and last but not least, brains.
Critical.
Super. Great.
See, I did short and sweet. What do you know?
Perfect. So, Deb, for listeners who would like to find more about you, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way is debkrier.com, and that's DebKrier.com. And all of my social links are there. But the best social site to reach me on is LinkedIn. There I'm Deborah Krier, so I'm a little more professional. But I think there's only 3 Deb Kriers in the world, so it's pretty easy to find me. I think I'm the only redhead, and so it's pretty easy to find me on social media. But everything is at debkrier.com.
They're gonna find you, Deb. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
I have enjoyed this so much. I love it, and thank you so much.
You are so welcome. It was really a pleasure having you on and talking about social media and in specific LinkedIn, and how you help C-level executives. Thank you so much, Deb. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you all for joining BrandsTalk Live today. Please leave your social love and maybe a comment or drop me an email. I'm always welcoming your precious feedback. You can also listen to this show as a podcast on your go. Just follow BrandsTalk on your favorite platform. So if you're interested in learning more about my services, head over to my website, BridgetBrands.com, or if you want to learn more about my personal branding course, see the link in the comments for further info. I hope you will join me again when we dive into the world of brands, live or by having me in your earpods walking the talk. Let's shine, you deserve it.